One of my most continuously viewed videos to this day is a 1-year review I did on the Synthstrom Deluge after using it for a year. That tells me that there is still an incredible amount of excitement and interest in this pretty fantastic device. But here's the thing, that video is almost 2 years old. So I thought it might be worth kind of doing an update, my kind of 3-year review as someone who still uses the Deluge regularly with a specific focus on how it's grown as my setup's kind of grown. I'll start at the beginning with what the Deluge is for those of you who don't know or are interested in maybe getting into it, and then kind of explain why I think it's such a fantastic device to grow with you on your journey. So for those of you who don't know, the Synthstrom Deluge is basically kind of an all-in-one Groovebox. It's got multiple synth engines, including subtractive synth, FM synth, ring modulation. They even added the DX7 synth engine from, the famous Yamaha DX7. You've got drum kits, you've got sampler, you've got a multi-sampler engine, you've got one of the best sequencers in class. It can do everything. You can basically make entire compositions all inside the box. And in fact, I have a playlist called Song Sketches, and if you look at kind of the early first year of that playlist, almost all those tracks were completely made inside the box on the Deluge before my setup grew. I think it goes without saying that this is a fantastic device. Even on its own, if this was the only piece of gear you got, it's fantastic. Why did I buy it? Well, I'm a guy who has been using DAWs basically since they came out. I mean, I had an old Power Mac G3 with a Digio 1 running Pro Tools 1. Like, when I bought the Deluge, I didn't buy it with the intention of kind of taking this DAWless journey that I've been on for the last year or so. Maybe 2 or 3 years at this point. I bought it because I thought it would be kind of a cool sketch pad, something I could use on the couch, that I could kind of sketch out tracks and then bring back and kind of expand upon those in my DAW. That was the plan. When I got the Deluge, it kind of became almost immediately apparent that I could write entire tracks in here. I could make entire compositions. The arranger is fantastic. The sequencer is great. And anyone kind of making the jump from DAWs into hardware, feels like a really kind of seamless transition because it's basically like a DAW in the box. And if you're familiar with a piano roll, if you're familiar with the way things are laid out in a DAW, it's just intuitive. It's just going to make sense. I immediately started making tracks almost exclusively on the Deluge. What I didn't expect is for the Deluge to completely change the way that I write and compose and what kind of music I make, quite frankly. The Deluge kind of set me on this journey because it's so hands-on, because it's so intuitive, and it's so just fun to work on. It kind of set me on the path of exploring synths, learning more about how synths work, and just kind of expanding my hardware setup and getting off the computer. As someone who works every day on a computer in a creative industry, like, that's not what I want to do when I'm making music. Kind of started finding myself on a DAW, being at a point where when you have every option available to you, it's hard to know where to start. Working on hardware, it's just more immediate. I can just start pushing things, I can start playing around, and it's just a nicer way to work. So how has the Deluge grown with my setup? Well, it went from being kind of my primary piece of gear that I just sketch things out and then moved into becoming a thing where this is what I compose on, this is what I want to make all my songs on, to now kind of being the brains behind my entire DAWless setup. So the way I use it now is I'll use it as a sequencer because it's one of the best sequencers there are out there. I think it's probably, in my opinion, one of the best ones. I mean, you got things like the Oxy and the Hapex, and they're fantastic sequencers, probably considered by many to be some of the best in class, but I think the Deluge ranks right up there. One of the things I love about the Deluge is being able to color code your tracks. That makes it super, super easy for me to look and immediately know, oh, that's my bass, that's my drum track, these are my different synth tracks. Like, I can identify them just by color, which is something that the Hapex and the Oxy they don't do. They've also continuously updated the functionality of the sequencer through community firmware updates to have expanded arpeggio capabilities. I know they're working on some crazy generative features. So a lot of those things that are already available on something like the Oxy or the Hapex are either already on the Deluge or are coming to the Deluge. It's just a fantastic sequencer. And I use it to sequence all of my gear. The other thing that it works really good with in my setup is because they've added MIDI follow through community firmware, I can have one keyboard control all my synths. And just by flipping to the different tracks, to my different MIDI tracks, I can immediately control all of my desktop-based synths. I don't have to get ones that all have a piano. If you're someone that likes to use the piano, quite frankly, I'm still someone that kind of prefers using the sequencer. And as I said, the sequencer is just one of the best in class. The other advantage that the Deluge has, and the way that I use it in my setup above some of other sequencers, is it's a ranger. It's a ranger, I think bar none, it just beats everybody. First of all, it's laid out very similar to the way I work in a DAW, with blocks of your loops, and you just throw it just like you would left to right in a DAW. It's freaking awesome. It's just icing on the cake. I can compose entire tracks. I can lay out the entire arrangement. And then when I'm recording my DAWless jams, all I have to focus on is the performance that I'm doing, maybe turning filters, turning, delays, and doing stuff like that. Like doing the live performance aspects becomes that much easier when I don't have to worry about queuing different tracks. Of course, if you're the type of person that prefers doing that more, improv-y, on the fly arrangement, the Deluge kicks ass at that too. It's got two different song modes for launching tracks. You got the original kind of vertical layout, which I still prefer. And then it also has a grid layout that's kind of more reminiscent to people who are coming from Ableton. It's just all around a kick-ass way to control all of your gear. But unlike the Hapex or the Oxy, it's also a synthesizer. It's also a drum machine. It's also a looper. It's all these other things. So not only do I get the sequencer flexibility that I'm looking for to control my broader setup, when I need an extra synth and I don't have any more inputs on my mixer, or I just can't find the sound I'm looking for through my hardware, I've got the synth engine on the Deluge. I use it as my primary drum machine. I load my own samples, I build my own kits, so I can use it as my main drum machine, and then complement that with something like my DFAM or, my Bastel drum, which is a little crazy and a little out there. So having the flexibility to add those extra synths or use it as a drum machine in addition to just a best-in-class sequencer is amazing. And if you're someone that's just jumping into hardware, chances are you're probably gonna start, if you're anything like me, you're gonna start growing your setup. And that's the beauty of the Deluge. It can grow with you. It can grow in flexibility. It can grow in terms of what its usability works for. It's just so flexible. I can't recommend it enough. And on top of that, this is one feature that a lot of people overlook, but because it's all in one and it's super flexible, you can take it with you on vacation. I just went to Hawaii and I sketched up a bunch of tracks, on the airplane or on the balcony when I had some downtime. I would just do some quick sketches. I could bring those back to my setup and then I could flesh those tracks out using my hardware. It's just a seamless process. I don't know any other sequencer or Groovebox that allows that flexibility. I don't know, maybe the Digitac stuff, maybe the Electron boxes. I don't know. Would I recommend the Deluge to you? I would recommend the Deluge to pretty much anyone. It's hands down my favorite piece of gear. It's my desert island gear. If my house is burning down, I could save one piece of gear. I have guitars worth thousands of dollars on my wall. I'm grabbing the Deluge. If I'm stranded on a desert island, I know I can make everything I need to make on there to keep myself entertained until, someone finally comes and rescues me. So yes, would I recommend the Deluge 3 years on? 100%. Hands down my favorite piece of equipment. It's the most versatile and integral piece of gear that I have in my entire setup. Get yourself a Deluge. You will not be disappointed.